Welcome to the What to Next podcast. Hi, Victoria.
Hi, Grahame.
So excited to chat with you. As you probably know, Victoria is a frequent guest to our podcast because we do have a live show every week at Thursdays from 12 to 12:30 p.m. I like a half an hour live show on YouTube where we talk about book recommendations for all types of reading. So Victoria's coming back to talk to us about spring classics. If you have set on your list or reading list to read a classic this year, Victoria is the girl for you. Her blog, Bibliolifestyle.com, has a lot of different classics, guys. It has where to get started from very popular authors, as well as some hidden gems that you may not know, but there are actually will be worthwhile reading. Victoria is going to help us give us some spring reading, classic reading. So let's get to the recommendations.
Yay. So before I get into the recommendations, I know classics can be intimidating for some folks. So some really quick tips if you're new to reading classics. First of all, take your time. I think these are the books that aren't really meant to be rushed, especially because you have to adjust yourself to the language. So I know you might be breezing through your contemporary reads and feeling like you're slogging with your classics. No, that's not the case. You do need that extra time to adjust yourself to the language, then soak it in and really get yourself into the place and setting. So just take your time. Don't judge yourself. Lots of classics, depending on the edition you pick up, it will have annotations. It will have some footnotes. It will also have introductions that provide historical context and explain some of the outdated and oftentimes problematic language. Okay. Because again, they were written a long time ago. So be mindful of that. I also think it's helpful to discuss and share them with someone. So join a book club, find the challenge online, and also lastly, choose what appeals to you. I'm going to share some recommendations with you today. And there's so many other classics available. It's important to pick ones that speak to your interest first, right? So if you're drawn to certain themes or things, then opt for those books. So I'm going to share 5 spring classics. I just think they hit differently during spring. You can read them at any time. But the first one I want to share with you is one of my favorites, The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. Now, here's the thing. Let's just transport ourselves already because you're going to have to, because some of these things are a bit wild. But just imagine getting a discreet ad that is telling you, hey, if you appreciate wistful living and sunshine and you want this escape to a medieval castle on the Italian Riviera, sign up. That is essentially what this is. So it's old school ad in the paper kind of vibes. And you have some women who sign on and said, yes, I'm very interested in this. So in the Enchanted April, we see 4 different women who have their own problems and all their different things come together for this month-long retreat in this medieval castle in Italy. So we see them really just enjoying everything the Med has to offer. But again, they have their own stories, they have their own histories, they have their own struggles. So we see them while they're out there, just kind of shedding the weight of their past lives, but also finding unexpected friendships and happiness along the way. The reason why I think this hits different, especially in spring, is because the novel is all about transformation and also renewal. So just as, you might feel like the landscape is barren because of winter and, everything kind of dies and the way how things bloom in the spring, I think the Enchanted April shows that sometimes a change of scenery can really change your perspectives and bring about personal growth. Because again, they're leaving gloomy England and they're going to Italy and it's beautiful over there. So Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim is number 1. Next on the list as well is another England to some other European country kind of vibe. Okay. And it's A Room with a View by E.M. Forster. Again, another book I adore. It's about transformation again. This time, though, we have a young woman who's just raised with very conventional, very traditional English values about everything. But then we see her finding herself captivated by the idea of going to Florence and, being somewhat of a free spirit for some time. And then while there, she meets a man who is just that, free spirited. Now we see her being torn between, should I go off with this man and marry him, the free spirited guy that, she kind of thinks he is, or should she stick to the traditional English norms and marry, some stuffy man who they have nothing in common with or anything like that. So we really see her being torn between the thrill of following her heart and what she wants to do or having to conform to societal expectations. So again, going back to those spring themes, we see our main character, Lucy. Her journey is all about, hey, should I step out of the shadow and into the light of a new life and new experiences? Should I do what I want to do, or do I need to suck it up and do what everyone else needs to do? So I think this novel, more than anything, will remind you that life is full of opportunities if we are brave enough to follow what we truly want. Again, it might not always yield positive results, but you're going to have to read A Room with a View by Forster to kind of see that. Now, a book I think everyone might have read or maybe watched a movie or something. Anne of Green Gables by Montgomery. I think that one just hits different during spring because I don't know, it does. So anyway, again, I think this book needs no introduction, but we meet Anne, okay, a fiery little redheaded orphan girl who finds a new home on Prince Edward Island with Marilla and Matthew. Now, we see how her vibrant personality and just her attitude towards life actually transform everyone around her, right? So in the other books, we kind of see like the main characters finding themselves. We see how the impact of one person, as she's growing up and coming of age, of course, but how she's transforming everyone around her. This one is perfect if you're looking for something heartwarming, but also just a spirited adventure following a young girl and just seeing the world through her eyes. And again, like spring, we see Anne's stories, one of hope and just enduring possibilities and endless possibilities, rather. I also love seeing her misadventures because, of course, we all take a wrong foot every now and then, but just her relentless optimism just reminds us that even when our beginnings, not what we want them to be or might be a bit challenging, we can also blossom into something extraordinary. So I think Anne of Green Gables is just very positive and uplifting. And I honestly think we need more optimism in our lives, quite honestly. So that is Anne of Green Gables. I'm going to close this one out with a personal favorite of mine, and it's The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Now, this is one of my favorites, like childhood favorites. My imagination ran wild with this book, and it didn't help that my grandmother actually had a garden. And I was just convinced this was a secret garden. Yes, she had a lock and everything on her garden. Wild. So my imagination, as you can imagine, ran wild. But anyway, this story also tells the story of another young girl. Not like Anne, but this one is Mary. And she stumbles upon a neglected garden on her uncle's estate because she's an orphan and she's gone there to live with them. And we see her kind of really working hard to revive this garden. But as she's reviving this physical garden, she's actually nurturing her own growth and her own healing, and in turn, kind of inspiring others as well. I do think there's something magical, and there's also just parallel lines between the revival of a once forgotten garden, and especially us coming out of winter and going into spring, and just the reawakening of nature. So I really think they really coincide. The Secret Garden is also a celebration of rebirth. Again, an invitation to start anew. And it just really mirrors the very essence of spring. I think nothing says spring more than The Secret Garden. So I said at the top, so those are my 4 classics. Okay. So quick rundown. Classic 1, Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. Classic 2, A Room with a View by Forster. Book 3, Anne of Green Gables by Montgomery. And book 4, The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Now, like I said at the top, pick a book that sounds like, hey, this is something I'm interested in. But if you're still not so sure, I'm going to say, if you consider yourself like a bit of a dreamer, I would definitely recommend that you pick up Anne of Green Gables or A Room with a View. Because if you love to dream and imagine things beyond the mundane, I think those books can be very uplifting and transformative. If you're looking for something where it provides some change, if you're in a phase of your life where you're seeking some personal growth or a fresh perspective, Enchanted April again, but also The Secret Garden. I think those 2 narratives really mirror renewal, and it might help mirror your journey. If you're a nature lover though, I want to recommend a completely different book. So we're going to go off the rails here for a little. And I'm going to throw in a bonus recommendation, and it's The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. I think that one is so whimsical. You're going to follow the adventure of a mole, a rat, and a badger. And of course, my unforgettable character is Mr. Toad. And we see them kind of journeying through the countryside along rivers. And it's just a very gentle classic that reminds you about found friendship and just the beauty of the natural world. Because now when I think about it, that's the book I think about when I think about like nature and beauty. And it's just filled with adventure. It's great escapism. And you also get like some humor and a touch of mischief as well. So if you love nature, try The Wind in the Willow. But if you're new to classics, again, pick up the shortest book. I think actually The Wind in the Willow would be good for a beginner because it's light, it's low pressure, it's easy to get into. And I think an adventure in something that can keep you turning the pages. Let's start with The Wind in the Willow if you're a newbie to classics. And those are my recommendations.
I love this recommendations. I love that you give us the classics to make it approachable and easier to get into it because we're most likely we were at one point required to read classics and we learn require reading. Sometimes can help and sometimes can just make us like say afford at full cost. Do not want to do this. This is not fun. And so I love that you make it approachable and make it easier. I just want to plug in that you also have a previous episode where you talk about classic love stories. So if you're looking for love stories, there's also, you have a YouTube video about toxic romance, toxic couples and classics. And if you're looking for even more recommendations from Agatha Christie to other authors, you can go to bibliolifestyle.com and there's authors guides, reading guides, and where to get started. So there's plenty of information. If you want to have classics as one of the goals to read this year, you can actually get it. You can make it happen.
Yes, you can make it happen. And again, we are no longer in school, so no required reading. If it's not working for you, just pass on and move on to something else.
Yep. So thank you, Victoria, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.